when we first locked down, everyone and their mother and brother and dog were putting up content.
Yeah.
Everyone.
All master chefs.
Yeah.
All the time. Everyone, right?
Yeah.
And I was just so overwhelmed.
Thank you for tuning in. Welcome everyone who was here. If you're landing on my page for the first time, this is my podcast, Dropping the Facade. I try to have very real and honest conversations with guests from different fields and different spheres of life. Today we'll be having a chat with Marriott. Marriott is a supermodel and also an actress, and she's worked with some of the top names in the fashion industry, and we'll be getting very real and talking about a lot of things you'd probably not hear a model talk about. So here goes. So let's start.
Okay.
Why don't you just introduce yourself a little bit and talk a little bit about yourself so that there's context to our conversation.
So that there's context to our conversation. Well, firstly, Devdeep, thank you for giving me this opportunity and this platform to have this conversation. I think that there are times and days like this, general conversation is so important because we kind of forget how to connect to people.
Yep.
There's so much text and social media and Facebook. We forget who real human beings are. Having said that, hi, I'm Marriott Walson. Professionally, I'm an actor and a model, and this is something that I've been doing for the last 7 years. In that time, I've done a whole bunch of fun things, right from paragliding to posing naked on the cover of a magazine to actually having to learn weird things to do on set, but it's been a lot of fun. But aside from that, a little bit about myself, because I know we'll go into my journey through this conversation, but a little bit about myself. I'm a Navy kid, a Pakka Fauji kid, defense kid. I grew up in Delhi. So I was lucky to be surrounded by very strong women growing up. I saw women be IAS, IPS, IFS officers. So that's something I've always carried with me growing up. And I think that that's really been a big influence in who I am. I also love reading, writing activities. I graduated in English literature from St. Xavier's College. So that was a whole different thing to jump from there to go to modeling, which was never something I had planned in my life. So my life has taken me like 180, 100. I don't know how many times I've been around. But that's a little bit about me. Okay, so let's get into whatever you want to get into.
So Marriott, tell me what and who is a model? How do you define?
So just the word itself, model, if you think about it, kind of means an ideal or an aspiration, right? Yeah. It's something like people use this word around, you say model citizen, model athlete, model so-and-so. And I find it so interesting that they reduce an adjective to a noun, where you've made something that was a description of something else and you've made it a noun and a whole job in itself.
Yeah.
Ideally, if you have to think of what a model is, a model is just a person who is setting an aspiration and an idea for a brand.
Okay.
And that's exactly what we do professionally. A brand is going to hire you because they want to give some sort of message to their audience. And how do you give that message? Obviously, hire a bunch of people, create a story. Hopefully, they're interesting looking people. So the way they look, what the story is, the way the visual of it, all represent what the brand wants to communicate. And ideally, that's what a model is.
But how does one decide who is a model and who is qualified to be a model? Because there is a stakeholder at the other end who is deciding that, okay, this person is a model for me, for my brand. So how does one decide that? Other than the fact that, of course, you want to pursue this as a career, keeping that aside, keeping the career aspiration aside, in the professional world, how does one decide that this person has been categorized as a model or is qualified to be one?
This is a question that I get very often on my Instagram, where a lot of young men and women message me saying, I want to pursue modeling as a career.
Yeah.
And when I'm in the mood, my first genuine question is, why? You can be anything, you can be an astronaut, you can be an engineer, you can be an agricultural scientist, you can do things that change the world. Why do you want to be a model? But jokes aside, it's honestly, there's a deep history to this. Because if you think about, if I do give you the real serious answer, the truth is, So to become a model, you have to be at the right place at the right time. Now, I'll tell you what I mean by this. If you look at the history of what and the kind of models that have been represented over the years, it's changed greatly.
Yep.
Initially, for example, we have had it's about the representation of what the current mindset is and what sells to the current mindset. So, firstly, it's something that you cannot control because it's a mixture of genetics. You need to have the genes that work at that time. So and it's not something you can control, to be very honest.
Yeah, like thanks to my dad, I'm balding now.
The thing that's okay. If you can eventually go to completely bald, then that's a statement as well.
Yeah, but if I go completely bald, body banani padegi. Then I can't be like a little bit chubby. That's my assumption.
You don't know. No, it is not true. It is not true. I feel like there might be a perception that bald, slightly larger men are very intellectual, and you seem like a very smart dude. So I don't think that's something you have to worry about.
Hopefully.
But having said that, back to what I was saying is that genetics is a primary part of something that you cannot control.
Yeah.
Secondly, you look a certain way, but a lot of things that have been changing in today's industry is the kind of look that works has been actively changing. So earlier when there would be, or you will only see perhaps lighter skinned models or women that look a certain way or men that look a certain way. Now, because of increased conversations about diversity, that has been changing. Right. The original idea that a model has to be tall and thin and skinny has also significantly changed. For example, if you look at Mr. Sabyasachi Mukherjee's latest campaigns, where he's hired women of various sizes and colors.
Right.
So, but also, this is the right time where the audience is also aware enough and willing to accept those kind of people, to see those kind of people in their advertisements.
Right.
So it's a combination of two things to understand that genetics and what works in the market. And I'll give you another example. There was this one girl when I started modeling who was constantly told that she was too tall in the industry, too tall. She was 6 feet.
Okay.
And she was constantly put down by people in the industry. So do you know what she did? She got on a plane. She went to New York, where she's become super popular because brown skin, 6 feet tall, she killed it. So also to understand your market. That's very important. Understand your market.
True. Fair enough. Very, very honestly said.
No, you asked me to be honest, so you might regret it later.
No. Don't worry. I have in my initial days of my podcast, when I was still figuring out what to do, I did this one episode on politics where I got like a lefty versus a righty, and the shit that they spoke, you should see it. My God. And it's completely unfiltered. And I was just like, somebody's going to kill me for this.
Not at all. I feel like a lot of us form opinions based on other people's opinions and not based on facts.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think we'll talk about politics later. But yeah, don't worry, I'm not an extremist in any way. So we all are safe.
You're entitled to your opinion and it comes through your experience. So that's...
But you should see that political episode. It was a lot of fun.
I will, please. I will. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, so all right, moving on. How has the lockdown affected your shoots as a model and an actress?
That's a very good question. It's when the lockdown initially happened, there was a lot of work that just immediately was stalled.
Yeah.
I actually entered this sort of the particular quarter of the year with 2 web series to shoot.
Oh, wow.
So I have 2 shows lined up that I was supposed to shoot, and my first show just released, which is Pavan and Pooja. And now unka namo nishan hai hi nahi. Matlab kare bhi to kya kare? Because no one expected this.
Yeah.
And I think people spent the first month or 2 kind of grappling to understand ki ho kya raha exactly, or agar karna hai to shoot kaise kare. So that was a bit of a thing. The interesting thing is, at least with the fashion side of things, my photographer friends got in touch with me and they're like, you know what? Zoom hai, WhatsApp hai, iPhone to hai nahi mere paas, but uske through, let's figure out how to shoot. So I managed to do an interesting shoot with a friend of mine.
How does that work? No, I just find that process very intriguing. Like, how do you shoot through somebody else's phone. Like I am a photographer myself and I just can't imagine doing that.
I agree with you. One of my friends whose work I really love, I was talking to him and he's like, please don't suggest this nonsense to me. When I see in Bombay, I will take my camera and shoot you.
Yeah, like I'll die instructing my model कि अभी phone left में लो, अभी phone right में लो, अभी phone left में लो, अभी phone right में लो.
And of course, because that's the thing that I also wanted to say, ki when people even want to do commercials, because I shot an ad during this time.
Okay.
And when people want to do commercials, they're still actually budgeting the same thing that they would have paid me earlier, or even less, saying that, now this is at home, we don't have a budget.
Yeah.
But once I started doing it, I realized that I am doing 5 people's job.
It's a lot more effort.
It's a lot of effort. I'm doing the acting.
Yeah.
I'm doing the camera direction. Okay, direction is coming. My poor brother is a human tripod. So at least that is happening. Right. Then aside from that, set direction is happening.
Yeah.
Styling is happening. Makeup is happening. Then khud ka chai wai bhi khud banao yaar. Like kya ye?
You're a production house now.
I'm a one-woman show. So yeah, it's been an interesting process because it's something entirely new and it's not something that anyone really expected. And I feel like everyone's learning as they continue to go through this process. So there's a lot of experimentation and there's a lot of ups and downs that happen. But having said that, I think that I miss the set. I miss it so much. The best thing about being on set was the people. The best thing about my job was meeting interesting people.
Yeah.
And the conversations that you have between action and cut. I mean, or rather, before action is called and after cut is called, I think was some of the best, most interesting conversations that I've had.
Right.
That unfortunately is missing.
You'll be shocked to know I've been on set for the last 5 days.
I'm very jealous. I'm not shocked. I am jealous.
Yeah, but it's very, it's scary also, yeah. Like you never know who's carrying what infection.
But are you guys given PPE suits and stuff? Like what is happening? How are you managing this?
PPE suits, see, it's a very limited crew, just 5 people. And it's a big studio. So there is social distancing anyway.
Distancing ho jata hai.
And we are all wearing face shields and masks. We are not wearing those PPE suits full on.
This was for a print or a TV scene, or like how were you?
No. This was a photo shoot, just a product photo shoot. So no model also. So that's why.
Okay, so then it's easier as well.
Yeah. But
at
still,
least more controlled circumstances. How did it feel?
What?
How did it feel?
Oh, the first date was amazing, but then eventually I realized that I am just shooting a lot of tiles because that was the shoot for, and then I got really bored.
Little limited there, little.
Yeah. Like how much of bathroom tiles can I shoot?
Can you shoot? I know there's a point where everything kind of blurs into each other.
Yeah.
Like, bhai.
So tell me, as a beginner, what are the things that one aspiring model should keep in mind before joining or even attempting to join?
Okay, so there are a couple of things that a beginner should really think about before, once they have actually genuinely decided to be a model, because there are a lot of misconceptions about what the job entails, and most people look at our end product and assume that that's what the job is. It's not. There's a lot of work that goes into creating that final picture or that final video or that final television commercial, whatever it may be. But having said that, if we're talking about just being a model, the first thing is you are entering an industry where people are going to judge you based on the way you look.
Right.
So it is very important to be able to present the best version of yourself. So the most important thing I would say is to build a portfolio. To understand, again, do your research. Figure out what works in the market. Check every fashion magazine you can. Check every print ad that you can. See the kind of stuff that people are doing. And try and match as much to that as you can. Now, how do you get pictures? Because there will be dime a dozen photographers who will come out and say, you give me an X amount of money and I will give you
Yeah.
2 looks or I will give you 3 looks. And
Hmm.
sure, that is definitely a way to do it. Now, when I started modeling personally, I came out of a corporate job. I had just joined after my post-graduation in PR and corporate communications. And I had my savings to pay my rent. So I was like, and then when this one guy tells me, yes, it'll cost 30,000. I'm like, this is how much I'm getting for a month. I'm not going to hand you 30,000 rupees.
Yeah.
It was, so then what I did personally was that I looked at all of the models that I liked. I looked at the people who were shooting them. And then I looked at their assistants. And I said, these guys are new. They're going to want to take pictures.
Right.
I'm new. I'm happily available to take pictures. And I got in touch with every single person that I could. I was very, very, very active. I think in my first year, I would have done over 100 free shoots.
Wow.
Most of the pictures will never see the light of day because they were crap.
Right.
But what I learned was I understood how to work my body. I understood how to work the camera. I understood what works for me and what doesn't. I understood how, depending on what photographs got response, I understood what works for clients. So I think it's very important to put yourself through that process because you learn and everyone around you is learning. And how it helped me, and I'll tell you why, when the day it hit that all of these free shoots helped, was when in my second year, my almost towards the end of my first year, the middle of my first year of working as a model, I got hired by Vogue India to shoot an editorial for them. And I was on set with an international Victoria's Secret model who had been flown down from the US and with other girls who were top models in this country. And I was not lost. I was having a heart attack internally.
Right.
But you know what?
Yeah.
I knew what to do. Because I had practiced. So there is no substitute for practice. And I think it's like that 10,000 hour rule, right, that you hear for any job. The more practice you get in, the better, the easier it's going to be when you reach that day of test.
Any particular YouTube videos or anything that you were reading online that helped you?
I followed America's Next Top Model. I watched everything that Tyra Banks had to say.
Right.
Everything. Because I thought that the way that show is structured was so interesting because she took people who have no experience.
Right.
They were learning through the entire show. And then the kind of critique that is given is very specific. So you can actually see what is going on in the process of the shoot and you see the end result. So I thought for me personally, that worked very well as a teacher in itself.
Right.
So that's one thing that's important. Another thing that's very important to kind of get yourself out there is to get an agent. If you can get yourself an agent is someone who has contacts in the industry, whose job it is to present you to clients who are looking to hire you, and they will also be able to perhaps guide you and present you in the best way possible so that you also start to glean an understanding of what your market is specifically. So what happens with an agent is that they also negotiate for you. So you end up, I feel that they get you fairer rates. You're less likely to be cheated. Yes, you have to give them a percentage of your work. And I know a lot of new people starting worry about, I don't want to give my money to anyone, but it's not something that I've ever worried about because my experience has always been, and I've always told my agents this, I'm like, guys, the more money I make, the more money you make. So get me work. And it's worked.
And they are taking care of business for you.
They do take care of business. So what happens also is when you're in trouble on set, because there are a lot of times when perhaps the people you work with aren't entirely fair. They push you to work overtime. And they, especially when you're new, sometimes bullying tactics are used.
Okay.
So when you have an agent protecting you, that's a conversation that they can directly have with the client, and it doesn't put you in trouble as an individual because they then can't take it out on you personally.
Right.
As photographers, it's a very new thing for photographers to have agents now, but earlier photographers have been just like competitive and insecure jackasses running around in the market.
I think we are in an industry that also fuels insecurity.
It does.
I'm also glad that you brought that up, that I would like to actually mention this. I think it's an industry that purposely fuels insecurity because they're constantly telling you that you're not good enough, no matter whether you're a photographer, makeup artist, or even a model or an actor. And there'll always be this threat of, if you don't do what I tell you, you will be replaced easily.
Somebody else will do it.
Somebody else will do it. And it's really not a very nice way to function. And what happens is then between us, especially as a personal experience for me, between models, then people get so competitive that there is a culture of putting the other person down that's encouraged. And that's definitely not something that I follow, that I encourage, or that I believe in. This is something, and this is me tooting my horn a little bit, but there have been times when I've messaged fellow models saying that, guys, there's a casting going on for this, don't you go? And they're like, have you gone? I said, but they need other people. And have then returned the favor to me, where I gotten jobs because someone else, a model who could have done the job herself, has recommended me, and I've landed it over them. Because I really feel like we need to look out for each other. The client knows what they want, so I truly believe if they want to hire me, they will. I don't need to put you down to be hired.
True. Yeah, I think in our industry, especially like fashion and creative industry, empathy is really lacking, and I think we really need to develop it. As artists, or forget clients are supposed to be dicks. That's in their job profile. But I mean, we need to look out for each other.
I absolutely agree, especially because our industry is fairly disorganized, and we don't have a body that's protecting us. We don't have anyone that we can go to if there's a problem.
Exactly.
So I really feel like looking out for each other is the first step.
Anything that you would advise your younger self to do differently?
Yeah, to chill out a little more. Like, I was so stressed when I started working, and I was so, like, I had these timelines in my head. I said, okay, by this age, you need to be able to do this. And by this age, you need to achieve this. And by this age, you need to achieve this. And honestly, look at coronavirus. Like, hello, look at us today,
Slap on all our plans.
Really, right? And I feel like it's not that I regret anything I did, because me being motivated got me to the point where I am.
Yeah.
But I think that I could have had a few less heart attacks and a few less, times crying on the floor of my house about something that happened.
Right.
So it would have been, and I feel like that's something I'd like to tell, but a lot of younger people as well. Yes, be motivated. Yes, push yourself and all, but don't take rejection personally.
I was going to come to this point but I think it's right now we should just finish that point off. It's the topic of having a burnout. So what you are saying, I have and I've experienced that in my work also, because I took so much, so much work at a point of time. I was just so dying to work and handle too many things. It just became too much, and I remember I started having anxiety problems and panic attacks, and then it was just a downhill curve for me. And then I realized that okay, I need to be stable. Personal happiness is as good as
is so important.
Yeah, and I feel with artists a problem is that their professional satisfaction is also very closely related to their personal happiness.
Yes,
I think that's a core problem with a lot of artists, where I feel that it definitely leads to burnout. So how have you handled your burnouts?
To be very honest, I have never reached a burnout stage.
Oh, wow.
Never. I have never been at a point where I have been fed up with life or fed up with things, because you know what? I space myself out. I have taken more vacations in the last 6 years than I ever have in the rest of my life. That's where all my money goes. And my parents are like, why are you saving? I said, because I had to go to Australia. What are you talking about? So I've traveled, I've seen the world. I actively pursue my passions, which is scuba diving, surfing, or I take up things because one thing that people perhaps are not entirely aware about the modeling industry and the acting industry as well is that there is a lot of downtime. unless you're Deepika Padukone or Katrina Kaif or one of those people where you're constantly endorsing, or Priyanka Chopra who's working in two ends of the world, you have a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important to develop yourself beyond your job. I feel like a lot of people define themselves based on the work that they do. And this is a question that I enjoy asking people. If you weren't doing what you do, who would you be?
Right. That's true.
Can I answer that?
That's something that please, who would you be? Please.
I think I would be a politician.
Are you serious?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I feel like giving everything up and
Hold
joining
a separate
politics.
interview just for you, huh? I should be hosting an interview and you should be my interviewee.
Someday let's go live on Instagram and let's talk about politics. Karte hain?
I feel like I don't know enough. You'd have to educate me. I'm one of those people, who has opinions without enough knowledge. I am admitting it.
That's okay.
No, but because politics is not, my level of politics, I actually am personally more involved in the politics related to feminism and how women are treated and what happens in a political system and a social system where there are certain narratives that are constantly sold to women, right? Yeah. Which also actually very easily pervades into our industry, where the truth is that a lot of advertising focuses on lack and focuses on making sure that you feel insecure and I and my product is the solution to your problems.
But it works, yeah. I mean, in
the entire industry is based on.
In their defense, it works. Fear is the biggest motivator.
Fear is the biggest motivator. And the thing is, initially when the whole industry started, it was to fill a need, right? You recognize the need and you fill it. And now that all of our needs are filled, you create a problem.
Yeah.
You make them realize that there is a need for something, and then you fill that.
Yeah.
Marketing-wise, it's a wonderful system to study.
It's like,
and I'm part of it, so I'm not going to complain. I make my money off it.
Agreed. It's like those antivirus companies making the viruses.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're much of a conspiracy theorist, but everyone's been a conspiracy theorist with this coronavirus business.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's another topic of discussion.
Yeah.
And that'll probably make me go on a rant. So, okay, I want to come to a slightly, I don't know if it's a controversial topic or it's not spoken of so much. I personally feel that in India, the fashion industry, like true fashion, is something which is recently finding its footing. Otherwise, and I shoot fashion, I love fashion myself, and this is in like no offense to any fashion professional, but I feel like fashion is so heavily reliant and just like leeching onto Bollywood and trying to feed off it, and that just sucks. What do you think about that?
It does suck. But okay, so there are a couple of things, because if you look at our early fashion industry in the 90s, when we actually had supermodels, like you had your Milind Soman and you had your Meher Jasya, and you had all of those people who we grew up looking to. Oh, thank you. But listen, I will count myself a true supermodel if I, like Milind Soman, can come out of a box and be the answer to someone's dreams.
You've done an ad with him, no? I think.
I have. So to grow up watching him on screen, to actually be in an Old Spice commercial with him was one of the full circle things that happened in my life. It was quite fun.
I'll put that ad in the link description below. It'll be fun for people to watch.
Please do. It's so entertaining. And I must tell you, I found it so funny because the makeup artist at the time, who was a huge Bollywood makeup artist as well, we laughed so much because they kept insisting that my sari pallu should be very thin. So he's like, they want you to have a percentage pallu.
Oh, no.
You can imagine. I was like, percentage? I was like, oh, I get it. But yes, the thing is that it's also the way it's a two-way thing, right? It's what the audience responds to, and it's what we constantly feed the audience. Now, the thing is, Bollywood has grown at such a rate that brands also understand that beyond a point, if they want to sell products, how do they stand out in a market that's so crowded? So you leech onto the love that is already given to a person or a star, and you kind of hope that some of that spills over to your brand. And that's why you're going to have actors and people in the film industry as your brand ambassadors, as them walking the ramp. Even the media is privy to this, right? So when I used to walk fashion shows initially in my career, the only photos that came up were of when the celebrity was walking the ramp. There were a lot of brands that perhaps couldn't afford a celebrity at that time.
Yeah.
And the kind of advice that they got from their managers was, if you can't afford a celebrity, then there's no point of you doing a show. And what do people who are genuinely working in the business of fashion, or genuinely working towards sustainable fashion, they're anyway fighting for fairer wages.
Yeah.
They're fighting for their workers to be paid better. They're fighting for better conditions. They're fighting to not damage the environment by using cheap products. And then all your money is being spent there. You know that your cost is going to be higher than anything from a fast fashion brand. And on top of that, you're expected to use the minimum profit that you make to hire a celebrity. So it's very difficult. And I feel like it's not entirely fair, perhaps. But having said that, I think social media has been a huge equator in the system. It has equalized a lot of things because a lot of brands can now actually use their own voices and say the things that they want to say in the way that they want to say it without needing a face to sell it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about editorial fashion specifically. And for the viewers, editorial fashion is not advertising fashion, it's fashion for magazines where you're telling a story primarily. So for editorial fashions and magazines, I don't understand if you are genuinely concerned about fashion, if you call yourself India's top leading fashion magazines, why is there a Bollywood celebrity on bloody every month, every cover, every month?
You do know that most fashion magazines don't make too much money, right? So the only way they feel that they will make money is if they put a Bollywood person on it. And also the Bollywood person or whoever comes on the cover because they have something to promote in that month.
Yeah.
So they'll have a film coming out or they'll have something coming out. And therefore it's fashion. I think a lot of these things have become crutches to Bollywood where they're just used as a tool. Very rarely will you see them being very left of center or expressive or going a little crazy. Because of course, if you buy any big fashion magazine today, you'll have to flip through at least 50 pages of ads before you reach the content.
Right. I guess paisa bolta hai, end of the day.
It really is. Paisa bolta hai. I mean, I wish someone would be brave enough to work against it. But what is happening is online magazines are doing this.
Yeah.
Because yes, they need money. And yes, they also, but the cost significantly dropped when you're not printing.
Yes.
And so that really has given space to a lot of people, I think, to express their creativity.
Right.
And I think just general awareness of people will definitely change this over a period of time. A lot has changed already. But, a lot has already changed, but I still see, like photographers, we get call from styling assistants. I get so many calls and I just have blocked them now. They're like, oh, this and this celebrity is going for this event. Why don't you come and shoot their looks? I'm like, what's your budget? And they're like, you will get credits. Isn't this the same thing that आप मेरे लिए फ्री में शूट करो आपको एक्सपोजर मिलेगा? It's the same thing.
The number of calls I get from brands saying that this used to happen to me. I wish I could say this used to happen to me when I was a novice and was starting out, but no, this has happened to me this year as well, where I'll get a call and they'd be like, we can give you clothes, we can give you this, if they're being generous. Sometimes it's only credit. If they're being generous, they say we can give you clothes. And my usual line for this is, that's great, but unfortunately, my landlord doesn't accept clothes as rent money. So if you can give me money, I will give it to him because he doesn't wear lehengas. Can't help it. Can't do anything.
Yeah, it's fine if you are a genuinely beginner brand and you are really trying to, make your mark in the industry and your product is good. And if it's a genuine collaboration, but just coming there and like free mein kar do exposure milega is like, I'll slap you.
I also, that's true. I feel like, there have been times where me as an individual or brands, when they're trying to say something and they have something interesting and they just want to tell a story, I'm so happy to be part of a story.
Exactly.
And none of us are paid. We put in our own work and put in our own effort, but we look at creating that final product,
Exactly.
which is beautiful. But if that's used as an excuse all the time, especially when I know you have money, not fair.
Yeah.
And not done.
So I think for the Bollywood hangover to go away from fashion, I think, in my opinion, it's at least another 10 years minimum.
I honestly don't know. I feel like, I think some of the things that have changed is, even if you look within the acting industry, right, films, suddenly in the last 2 or 3 years, online work has made stars out of people.
Yeah.
Which is something that would have never happened had you asked people 5 years ago.
Yeah.
They would have been like, online kaun karta hai? And now everyone is online. And now with the quarantine, people are running out of things to watch. So lucky everyone whose shows finished just before the quarantine and came and have released during the quarantine. Lucky them, right? But I think that even maybe in fashion, one would hope that there is a change and a recognition of different kinds of people, because I think one of the most important things, the word that it's thrown around a lot, the word diversity.
Yeah.
The word diversity.
Oh, that's a marketing word now.
Yes, it is a marketing word, and there are very few brands who actually follow it up.
Yeah.
But when you have, in terms of diversity, when you suddenly wake up and you see an established old brand like Sabyasachi suddenly hiring models who not only are of different colors, different ethnicities, but also different body sizes and shapes, without saying anything about it, right? It's not like he made a hoo-ha about it. They were just there. When you make it matter of fact and casual, the world, the country, the fashion world notices it. And hopefully it encourages other people to realize that these are the people you're selling to. You're not selling to people who are models. You're selling to real human beings.
True.
Although I understand the aspiration aspect of it. So I get that everyone is not going to be hired. But it would be nice to have some diversity.
But it's true. Some brands are genuinely setting the stage for this change. So I guess we can be hopeful.
We can. I feel like one of the people who really has led this just by being herself is Anjali Lama. Anjali Lama is a transgender model from Nepal, and she is killing it. She's such a lovely human being. I've been lucky to work with her. And the fact that brands actively hire her, kudos to them. When a big brand like Puma hires Anjali Lama, they're making a statement, and there's a change coming about.
True.
Thank you for bringing some optimism back to my hopes from the fashion industry.
No, I think, I think people are good. Essentially, people are good, and people want to make a change, but there's a lot of fear because you don't want to push. It's very hard to challenge the status quo. It's very hard.
Yeah.
And you really need a lot of courage. In fact, if I may, I wanted to bring up, since I brought up Puma, one of the things that I wanted to tell you, I was associated with Puma as an influencer for all of last year, which is ironic because that's the first time I realized that apparently I'm an influencer. I'm like, oh, really? Okay.
Whoa, wait. So I'm talking to an influencer. Oh shit.
Oh my God, right? Oh, like who would have known?
Should have combed my hair a little bit more.
So yes, these influencers these days, almost like it's just a whole comedy thing. But when they got in touch with me, I was shocked. And I was like, what am I supposed to do here again? And they're like, we'll send you stuff. And I said, and then? Nothing, post a picture for us. I said, you're going to send me shoes. And I'm a sports person. So you're sending me sports shoes is brilliant, right? I mean, I live in sneakers. So I was like, this is great stuff. And you're sending me sports gear so I can run and play and do all the other things that I do. And I said, and post a picture. And I was like, and then? Like, no, that's it. And I said, and you're going to do this for free? I said, yeah. And I was like, okay. So that happened. They sent me my first pair of shoes and I wore it and I took a picture and I went to some event that they had. And then it suddenly struck me. I said, wait a minute. And then I kind of did some research and I saw the kind of people that Puma is sending shoes to. And I said, you're sending shoes to people like me, people who are perhaps better off than me. All of us can afford these shoes. How is it now, if I need to be an influencer, I'm going to own this word. I decided that I will own this word and truly influence something. So something that I do actively on the side is I volunteer with this village school called Nareshwadi, which is on the outskirts of Maharashtra in Dahanu, which actually houses about 350 plus children from the Warli tribe, as well as they house orphan kids that they take care of themselves. These are orphan children who live in the school full time and the school educates them. And I've always had an association with them because they're a very sustainable farming school. So they teach sustainable farming to the kids aside from the school curriculum, and they teach them a lot of vocational courses so that they're employable in the future. So I used to go volunteer there. So I told Puma, I said, you know what, let's do something. I sometimes go and I work with the basketball team in the school, and there are about 12 kids and they practice barefoot. So it would be really nice if you could give them gear, nice t-shirts, shorts for the boys and girls, sneakers.
Yeah.
And the marketing head of Puma was like, you know what, let me look into this and I'll let you know. I got a message saying that, there's a parcel on the way. Let them know that it's going to come.
Oh, wow.
The next thing I know, I get a call from the school, the person I was coordinating with, and she's like, Mariette, there's a truck here. I said, a truck? I was like, do you mean a box? She said, no, there is a full truck here. They opened up. Puma sent gear right from sneakers, school bags, shorts, t-shirts for 350 kids in that school.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that's when I will fully own the word influencer, because I truly influence some change and I'm very proud of this work that I do.
That's amazing. I have newfound respect for influencers.
Well, if they use it properly, right? And not be influencers.
Yeah. Bob, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's such an inspiring story. And I hope people of power and people who have a following should more and more do things like these. That's so thoughtful of you. And talking about status quo, let's talk about the changing treatment and the changing perception of beauty standards, especially in India. And I'm talking about size, I'm talking about color of skin. You are very vocal about that. How has that shift been in your perception?
Okay, so the funny thing is that, so I will personally speak about color of skin for most part, because that's been my personal experience and I feel like I'm qualified to speak about that. Everything else was what I previously mentioned, which is the same thing that I'm seeing as you're seeing. It's what I've witnessed.
Yeah.
But what I've personally experienced is I grew up in North India, in New Delhi. So it was, and I was always a kid who was very active. So, and I was one of the few girls who was allowed out in the sun, because my parents honestly didn't care. They're like, get out of the house and be, useful. So we were really encouraged to be extremely athletic, and the color of my skin was never really a topic of conversation. But I would hear other girls' mothers say, "Beta, bahar ja rahe ho, kale ho jaoge." And I was like, "हाँ ठीक है यार, काले हो जाएंगे, मतलब मैं तो खेल रही हूँ, क्या फर्क पड़ता है?" Continued with life. And then the first time when I came into modeling, and the first time this actually happened was I go into a casting for a hair brand that my agency had sent me for. So I walk into the casting, and the casting director looks at me and says, "Nahi, aap fit nahi ho." And I'm very confused, because even though my hair is tied up, I have absolutely gorgeous South Indian Mallu hair. So I was like, fit nahi hai. I said, पर मेरे तो इतने अच्छे बाल हैं, और ये तो बाल का ad है ना, like it's a hair brand. He's like, नहीं madam, आप fit नहीं हो. So it confused me a little. And then this other girl walks by with, and I say this very objectively, worse hair than I had, okay? So, but she was lighter skin. She was a very pretty, fair girl. And he's like, हाँ madam, आइए. So I was a little confused, and I said, okay. And he didn't allow me to audition. I was not allowed to audition. Wow. So I go back out and I call my agency and I'm like, this has happened. He's like, wait, let me get back to you. And then they told me, listen, Mariette, don't bother about it. we'll figure it out. Of course, the win for me is I landed Garnier 2 months later and got paid 10 times the amount that this brand was offering. So I was like, in your face.
In your face.
But that was
What a brand.
That was one. And what a brand, right? So that was one experience. Another experience was when I was at a shoot for an Indian wear brand, and the makeup artist comes to me and goes, "Koi baat nahi, hum fix kar lenge." And I'm like,
"What?
Kya fix kar lenge? Nahi, aapko gora bana denge, aap tension mat lo. I said, "मैं tension नहीं ले रही हूँ. मतलब ये तो मेरा skin color है. मैं tension क्यों लूँगी?" But that happened. Another one was when I walked into, and this really made me laugh, but also had an impact on me, was when I was called by one of the biggest production houses in the country, film, to give an introduction. And I was like, this production house has launched people left, right, and center. So, oh my God, they've called me samne se. It's not ki I stood in line there saying, mera introduction do. Samne se mujhe phone karke bulaya.
Right.
And I went and I sat there. And I was waiting to be called into the room to give my introduction and, just making sure I remember all my points. And a casting assistant who I knew walks by and just crosses me without looking. And I was like, hi. So they're like, oh, hello. Walk, freeze, reverse, and looks at me and says, Marriott? I said, yes, hi, how are you? Like, what did you do to your face? I said, what? I don't know. What did I do to my face? They're like, what is this? Now, this was a tan that I had got because I had just come back from surfing in Sri Lanka.
Okay.
So I was in Sri Lanka, I was surfing. I come back. So he was referring to my tan.
Okay.
So I said, this is my face. They're like, oh, please get rid of it and come back. I said, you want me to get rid of my face? So I'm like, no, Marriott, you know what I mean. And I was like, acha, theek hai. I laughed and I walked out. But that really stayed with me. And it was shocking to me because I'm not even that dark-skinned.
Right.
There are girls and boys in this country who are way darker skinned than I am.
Right. And it's hard to not take them personally also, yeah, such comments. No matter how objective the brand is being, it is personal for you because they're telling it to me.
And not just that, you're telling me that I'm inadequate to perform a job that requires skill, right? Because I'm acting. So to perform a job that requires skill, you're telling me that the way I was born means I'm automatically less.
Right.
That is changing thanks to wonderful women like Radhika Apte and Anurag Kashyap hiring more people. And Netflix has really changed the game for everyone, Netflix Prime, etc. So I think that that's really, really changing and this is something that I wanted to bring up. Economics, again. Economics changes things. If you give money to people, economics changes things. If you give money to people who will make different decisions, if you start putting different kind of diverse people and truly diverse people, you put people of different ethnicities, you put people of both genders, you put people with different life experiences on your board of decision makers, the kind of stories you will tell will be different and the kind of hiring will change.
Right. But just to, just for argument's sake, in advertising, a brand does have and should have the liability of choosing whoever they want and having a particular choice of model and actor that they want to go for and a particular image that they want to create.
Absolutely, right? As a brand, one of the things that we learn in marketing is you're going to have 3 keywords that your brand stands for. Yeah. And you want that kind of brand recall. So you will obviously find someone who you think represents your keywords and helps your brand recall. Yeah. That's definitely a very valid point. But having said that, how much of that idea of the person who represents those 3 keywords is your prejudice? That's what we are questioning.
But how do you break it down that this is prejudice and this is them just being objective?
I mean, it's a simple thing. I always get a call for poor girl or village girl roles. I cannot remember the last time I got a call to be a spy or to be an assassin, which is still cooler, that's fine, or to be the rich kid in a movie. So there you go. That's prejudice for you. And it's so ingrained because it's not just at the hiring level, right? It's also they believe that the audience won't believe, perhaps, that someone who looks like me could be born in luxury and be driving around in like a Mercedes and own a Chanel and be flousy about it. I always have to be the serious actor. Why? Yeah, I would like to be stupid sometimes. Please allow me this. Please.
But what has been done to tackle this perception? I know it has changed a lot, thankfully. But what can a model, let's say model, do in their power to bring about this change?
Two things I would say in my mind is create. When you are not being hired to be in certain fashion magazines, and fashion is still not so discriminatory. Fashion is actually lovely about inclusivity in that sense. But when you want to be seen in certain ways, and when you want to be represented, right? Just pretend that the other people don't have an imagination and you need to sell yourself. So take pictures like that. Do things that you would like to be seen in. One of the people I look up to internationally is this girl named Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Phoebe has written and starred in this series called Fleabag, which is available on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant show, right? And the thing is, she wasn't the lead of anything before that. So what did she do? She kept getting little roles here and there, here and there. So what did she do? She writes herself into a show. She goes, she sells it because online people are looking at good content.
Yeah.
She sold it. She put herself in it. She hired people who were diverse. And she told a story. And today she's telling stories that are winning, different stories that are hiring different people. And they're winning Emmys. So do that. Create. Because today with an online platform, it will be seen. And if your content is good, the world is going to share it.
Yeah.
Be the voice that can't be ignored.
True. And I think, and like just adding to your point, just develop thick skin.
Oh, it's so important. You cannot take rejection personally.
Yeah.
All of the prejudice aside, sometimes they're genuinely, and I always tell this to people who go for castings and who go for auditions, is that there are multiple layers of decision making that happens before you actually land a job. So right from you fitting the bill because the director had an idea of what his character needs to look like, to the producer thinking whether he can sell the film because economics, to the casting director, to the job you did. So there's so many levels, and sometimes it's just random.
Yeah.
I've had a friend who has been cast for a film, for a show, and a very big show. It's on air now.
Okay.
She goes to set. She shot for 2 days. The third day, she's en route to set. They call her and say, "Acha, don't come in today." Huh? And she's like, "Kyun? Are we shifting scenes?" They're like, No, don't come in. Half an hour later, her agent is called and said, "We don't want her."
Oh, shit.
And she's just like, and it was shocking, right? And they replaced her. And now the show is on air.
Oh.
And it was a big thing. It was a beautiful show and a beautiful role to be a part of. You can't take it personally because, and you do, right? You do take it personally.
Very natural.
So I wouldn't say don't take it personally. I would say allow yourself through the process. Grieve if you have to. Get upset. But then do things to pick yourself up and move. Because the only way is to keep moving forward.
True.
Constantly, even I believe so. Constantly creating something or the other, even if it's just for yourself.
Yeah, do it. And if and it's really also okay. So now I want to bring up something to contradict you since you enjoy contradictions. This is another thing that I experienced when the quarantine happened. When we first locked down, everyone and their mother and brother and dog were putting up content.
Yeah.
Everyone.
All master chefs.
Yeah.
All the time. Everyone, right?
Yeah.
And I was just so overwhelmed by the amount of content there was and the amount of pressure I put on myself to create. Because I kept saying, Marriott, you need to put stuff out,